Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the second episode of Cosmetic Corner for Battlefield 5, where I will be doing the British or the Allied forces. Whatever they want to call it. Uh, Mainly what I could say just from the start off is my biggest gripe with this game in terms of allied cosmetics is there's really not that many British cosmetics, and I feel like that's what the game sort of wanted to start off as, just simply because if they are kind of going down the timeline for the story of, well, not really the story, but the timeline for World War II is that, yeah, it started off as the British and the French versus the Germans. Which there are some French cosmetics in the game, which I think I'd be okay with. It's the same reason why the Germans get some Italian skins, but I think that just more lines come down to that I would much rather have them be their own factions in the game rather than just being folded into just a generic Allied versus Axis forces. So starting off with the British assault, it's Seamus. Frankly, if you do not have Seamus as your assault class for your allies, you're playing it wrong. Because Seamus totally screams blow stuff up and assault rifles, semi-automatic rifle. That to me, that's just what he plays. Although I've seen him play as snipers, machine gunners, even medics. So really just sort of comes down to what you want to play him as. So nothing really outside of that. It's, you can't really change his own cosmetics. It's just him. So moving on to my British medic. British medic, it's Norman Kingsley. I forgot his name for a second. So Norman Kingsley is probably the best looking elite in my opinion. But we will talk about the elites here in a little bit for the British. Just kind of give you a loadout of what they look like before I go into the weapons and gadgets that they use. So once again, can't really change the cosmetics for them. So my British machine gunner slash engineer. In terms of cosmetics, I went with the desert, like a desert rat look, which is why I also equipped the desert rat skin. This is one of the few skins in the game for the British that is actually historically accurate. Those big pouches in the front, the brown looking camouflage and the brown coloring of the clothing was very popular for British soldiers, just simply because it was decent enough camouflage, I guess, but it's just what they was actually worn. So we just have the Autumn Brody, which I wish I can get rid of that hat that he's wearing underneath it, but beggars can't be choosers when it comes to this game. Obviously the Desert Rat torso, and then the Desert Rat legs. Also, if you are going to be making a machine gun class, you kind of have to, put bullets all over them. It's kind of hard to, kind of hard not to. Just, it fits what you're playing as, and that's why my, German machine gunner here, if he'll load, also has bullets. Like I said, hopefully it'll load here. Come on. Come on. There we go. So yeah, just, if you're gonna be using a machine gunner, make him have bullets. Make him look like he's actually a machine gunner. Going back here, we're going to now my British sniper. This is kind of a hodgepodge thrown together look, but I got this look off of the subreddit r slash Battlefield Cosmetics. And so we got the Robert the Bruce headgear, displaying Dice's fetish for gas masks. God, I just wish it was just the beret and not the gas mask. It's just ridiculous. The Wild One torso is pretty unique in the coloring of it, and then just the different types of pouches. Obviously, the grappling hook with the rope and the helmet off to the side here just creates a nice, unique look to it, while the grifter pants with the desert camo just kind of give you the best sort of British standard legging wear for them. So going over to the actual loadout, like I said in my German video, I actually use the separate battle or combat roles, as they call them. For the light infantry, I usually, in terms of semi-automatic rifles, I'll usually either use the M1 carbine or the, where is it at? The Turner SMLE. Turner SMLE, if I find myself going to slightly longer ranges, I mainly just use the M1 carbine. However, mainly just because if I'm picking the light infantry combat role, it's because it's a close quarters map, or I find myself in a lot more close quarters situations. 1911 for both classes. Just simply because I feel like it's in terms of allied sidearms, I feel like it's just really reliable. Lever pipe for both classes, just because it's Seamus, and if you're not using the lever pipe with Seamus, you're doing something wrong. Standard hand grenade, just for decent damage. Piats, because on close quarter maps, you don't really necessarily have to worry about vehicles all that much, but Piats are somewhat effective against infantry. It was nerfed relatively recently. So the splash damage isn't as good as it used to be. You used to be able to just get insane kills with the Piat. But a close enough shot or a direct hit will still one-hit kill soldiers, so it's better than a Panzerfaust at close range. Also, it reloads quicker, which is the nice part about it. Is if you need to get multiple shots off of it, you don't have to discard the whole thing like the Panzerfaust. It's also good against fortifications, which often get built more on closer range maps. And then dynamite, just because, like I said in my German video, it's just a universal sort of utility, to where it can be used to kill infantry, it could be used to take out fortifications. And if you do come across a map on, or not a map, like a tank on like Devastation or something, you actually have something other than just the Piat to where you can deal decent damage. For the vehicle buster, usually that's going to be the longer ranged map, so there's going to be more vehicles put in place. The Carabin 1938M is actually a really nice rifle. The reason why I use it for the Allied is because it's almost a mirror copy of the G43. Also, it gives my Allied factions a semi-automatic rifle that 3-shot kills at any range. I was using the Selbstlader 1916 for this, but just that insane recoil and abysmal rate of fire for a semi-automatic rifle just made it to where, in close quarter situations where I was using the Selbstlader 1916, I would just get my ass handed to me over and over and over again. So I'm glad the Carabin is out, because yeah, it does have the hipfire spec, so it's actually not terrible up close, especially if you can get the jump on somebody. But with the quick reload perk on it as well, the forced stripper clips usage, it does not have a detachable magazine, is actually pretty good. And then if I end up having to use some close quarter combat, obviously I'm just going to use the Ruby Roll. Probably the most accurate fully automatic weapon in the entire game. Yeah, I'm surprised this thing hasn't gotten nerfed. Because this and the STG-44 are like the most popular assault weapons. With obviously the STG-44 being a bit more popular in my opinion, just because it does have a higher rate of fire with a larger magazine capacity, while this is more of a uh, watered down version of it. But it's still very effective for what it is. Heading over to my medic class. Field medic is going to be used for the more longer range engagements. I'll usually either use the Sten or the Commando Carbine. Now, the Commando Carbine really has been kind of a touchy gun for me, just because there's some games I'll do absolutely great with it, and then there's some games to where, you know, you can't hit the broadside of a barn from inside. And I feel like that's just because the absolutely abysmal muzzle velocity on the 45 caliber shell that it fires, it is only a pistol cartridge. Yeah, it's a pistol cartridge. Pistol cartridge. Sorry. So if you're not using the high velocity bullets on this, I don't know really why you would use this gun. It makes it a bit more bearable. Also, that it was buffed recently to have a higher muzzle velocity, so it's not terrible. But if you compare it on the table to the M28 Trumponcino, this thing just blows it out of the water. This thing is a proper bolt-action rifle in most cases, while this is just kind of a gimmick weapon. Also, the suppression, I found out, actually is not terrible, but at longer ranges with how many shots you have to hit people with, more than often they're just going to run away and you'll probably never see them again. So that's why more often than not I'll just break out the Sten, just because it is an incredible I don't want to say long-ranged SMG, but it certainly can touch out to longer ranges more accurately than most other SMGs. Ruby, just because I really do enjoy the faster firing sidearms. I'm not so much of a huge fan of the Mark 6 revolver, which I know everybody uses pretty much, but it's just nice to have a fast firing sidearm in a close quarters combat oriented class. British Naval Dagger, because it came with Norman Kingsley, so if you're not using the weapon that you got with, you're just kind of screwing yourself out. Frag Grenade, just because it's quote-unquote better at longer ranged maps, just because you could throw it farther, I guess. Standard bandages, because I can't rely on my teammates to actually stand in one place in order to use the AoE of the medical crate. And smoke grenade rifle, because of all the reasons why I said in my German video why it's so good. For the combat medic, for the more hip-fire oriented SMG, the MAB 38 is my go-to. It has, I think, some of the best hip-fire characteristics in the game if you go full hip-fire, which is something that kind of breaks it out of the mold of being its own unique SMG. But I just feel like it's a decent enough SMG up close. The rate of fire isn't as good as, say, as like the Thompson if you were to hip fire it. But I just like it just because it's also a weapon nobody really seems to use, which is sad, because this weapon is incredibly good in my opinion. And then for a bit longer ranged but still decent up close, I'll use the EMP, just because the light in stock and the custom stock options on there just make it really handy for aiming down sight accuracy at slightly more longer ranges. But you can kind of almost interchange the MAB 38 and the EMP for, you know, what close quarters SMG I want to use. Obviously the same pistol, same melee weapon. The only difference is the incendiary grenade, just because it's a fast-ish deploying grenade that kind of shuts down as an AoE. Moving on to the British, it's a bit different. British machine gunner, I should say. It's a bit different, just because I really, really enjoy the MG42. But there's a bug in the back of my head that I cannot use the MG42 if I'm not German. So for my machine gunner class, I use the M1922 with the recoil buffer, the flashless propellant, the light bolt, and the chrome lining. This actually, in my opinion, kind of makes the gun worse than what it would be with just its normal rate of fire, but I kind of wanted to balance them out as best as I could between the British and the German machine guns, but the MG42 is just so much better. But the 1922 can get the job done as well, so. Because I use these on more close quarters maps, I will usually use the impact grenade just for that quick deploy and quick burst damage. 1911 once again, just because it's a reliable sidearm. That's not the revolver. Pickaxe, because I don't know, it's a machine gunning engineer class. I want to use a weapon that actually could be used as a tool outside of just a melee weapon. Ammo crate, because it's the best in the game, and if you're using ammo pouches, you are doing it wrong. And the pistol grenade, because it is the best second gadget for the support class. That's not something that's almost completely useless, and something that is completely useless. The engineer class is where it gets a little interesting, because when I use the engineer class, I actually try to repair vehicles. So I will use the engineer class on longer ranged maps to where vehicles are more prominent. So for longer range combat, I will often pull out the Bren gun here with the 3x scope. It's actually pretty accurate with it. For closer ranged game engagements, for just closer maps, is when I will break out either the 12G automatic, which is my buckshot allied shotgun, or if I'm feeling lucky, the trench broom, the M1987, which I feel like is the best shotgun in the game for slugs, if you feel like running slugs. But I also don't use shotguns all that much, just because they're limitations for such limited range combat. For close quarters on the machine gunner class, I just the KE7 with the light bolt specialization, just because I wanted to get it as close to an FG42 as I could. You could tell that I like the German weapons a lot more than the British weapons. So KE7 with the light bolt, hip fired, and the custom stock, I really just wanted to get it as close to the FG42 as I physically could. Oh, where am I at here? There you go. And oh, I lost my place here. Yeah, so the Bren gun here is probably the most accurate light machine gun in the game. If there is one thing I want in the game more, is more light machine guns. Mainly just because I was using the LS-26 for quite a while, but I often found myself, you know, just sort of stretching myself further and further away from actually using it, just because this thing feels more like an assault rifle than an actual machine gun, because the the sheer lack of magazine capacity. And I feel like that's a problem that the light machine guns have, is like you have 20 rounds in the LS-26. You have 20 rounds in the FG-42. Granted, that has a higher rate of fire than normal, but this is more like a fully automatic rifle than an actual machine gun. And then the Lewis gun having the capability of getting a larger magazine to up to 97. That's, you know, we want more stuff like that to where we can actually use machine guns without having to deploy bipod mechanics, because we all know how frustrating people who abuse the bipod mechanics can be, with just camping in corners and walking straight in front of them and then just getting your ankles torn off by a machine gun. So, DICE, please, more light machine guns. So then going over to my scout class, going to the Pathfinder, I use the ZH-29 because the Selbstslaughter 1906 is probably the most equivalent to this, so I just use this one to kind of match my German sniper as much as I can. This is the only class that I'll really use the Mark 6 revolver on, just because I feel like it's the only class that really needs it. British Army jackknife, because, you know, it's a British knife. That's it. I don't really care much for the melee weapons, just because they're just reskins of one another. Throwing knives, because they're quick, cool ways to take down people, I guess. I don't ever really see these being used in, I guess you could say, a strategic way. It's basically just style points is what it is with throwing knives. But they can be fun at times. Flare gun, because it's incredibly overpowered for what it is. And spawn beacons, because it's better than these two garbage equipments. Sniper, I'll use the Ross rifle. I was using the SMLE for it, but I found out the SMLE is actually, if you want to go iron sight sniping, probably the best sniper rifle for that, so I kind of built it to just be a iron sight sniper, and, you know, just to have fun and sort of challenge myself every now and again. So the Ross rifle with just the quick aim, swing, swivels, machine bolt, and the bayonet charge, just because that's incredibly satisfying to pull off. And really nothing different between the two, other than just a grenade for the sniper class, just because you can throw them farther. I don't know. Now we get to talk about the elites, which are always fun.
Feind neutralisiert.
No, I don't want you to talk. Gosh, I just want to get to the other elites. Gosh, dang. So the British elites, in my opinion, are way better than the German elites, because most of them are actually pretty decent enough. When Seamus first came out, being the first British elite, I know a lot of people were excited because it had the green beret on there, and it had, you know, actual decent looking British cosmetics, which is kind of ridiculous to the fact that if you want good British cosmetics, you either have to spend real world money on weapons, or not weapons, soldier skins, or elites, while there are plenty of realistic German skins in the game. So looking at Seamus as a character, the game obviously sort of portrays him as a assault class. His best squad animation is it's really just kind of funny, I guess. It really just sort of pushes him as a over-the-top style character, which his melee weapon literally being a pipe, and the oh my gosh, and just the overall sort of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. Just the appealment of the character, I guess. So looking at his intro here, you can kind of tell that he just is an over-the-top style character. That's kind of meant to be more of like a lighthearted edition.
That one is mine.
It kind of does suck, though, to be perfectly honest, his intro. Just because it really doesn't show him doing assault class things. Like, if we go over to the other assault, Wilhelm, you know, he's using explosives at least, but granted,
Where are we going, comrade?
you know, I feel like just Seamus's character really just makes up for it. The second British elite to come out is Hannah. Hannah is a British resistance fighter sniper. And my god, do I have problems with her. First of all, what the hell is she wearing? She has like half a jacket on, it looks like. You know, and the other half is behind her, and it's almost like kind of being used as like a cape. Her overall design, yeah, it's fine to have like a French resistance sniper, but if you look at her intro, she really is a bad sniper. Like, I'll show you and then I'll explain afterwards. So she's riding on top of a tank, which I'm sure the commander appreciates only seeing her ass. This guy is just a terrible shot as well. Like, yeah, I'm going to fire my... Ugh. Now, this might seem just like nitpicking, but you're a lone sniper and you see at least half a dozen men in a tank driving down the road. Why would you open fire on that? Especially, it's, you know, it's not like you're that far away. You're using iron sights on your, I'm assuming your Car 98. But for you to also be taking second shots at this tank while you're there's just a lot of things wrong with this. One, German sniper is a terrible shot. Two, Hannah has terrible reaction times. You know, oh, I'm getting shot at. It's like, oh, what? I better take aim at this sniper here and you know, not even show me killing it. You know, they're just gonna assume I killed it, I guess, because God forbid I'm hoping you're a better shot than he was. Then we go on to the possibly the best in the entire game, Norman
What's our
Kingsley.
mission, soldier?
I only have 3 words to say to you: mustache, mustache, and mustache. No, but really what did it for me was his best squad animation. Just brush off the stash a little bit. But there is one thing I want to know about this, and somebody tell me this. What class is he? He doesn't have any custom animations for when you pick a certain class. They're all just the same stock, you know, equip animations for when you equip any soldier to them. And his special assignments to get his knife are kind of all over the place. Like, you have to kill people using fortified weapons, you have to heal and revive people, but you also have to, like, spot and snipe people, I think. So he's kind of all over the place, but since Elise, whatever her name is, her thing is that she's a medic. I just kind of put Norman as a medic as well, because it doesn't make sense for him to be another sniper, because if you look at the weapons he uses in his intro, which, by the way, best character intro in the entire game when we get to it, But, you know, we already have Hannah, who's our sniper, and then Ernst, who's the German sniper. We have Wilhelm, who's the... Oh, God, everybody shut up. We have Wilhelm, who's the German assault, and then Seamus, who's the German assault, and then Chernobyl is the German medic. So I'm just gonna be like, yeah, Norman's the German medic. That's what I'm saying. I'm calling it there. So, why do I say that Norman has the best character intro in the entire game? Well, I believe it's something that a lot of Battlefield players wanted. They want this game to feel like a World War II game. So you have somebody that looks like, yes, he would fit in a world setting. But I'm going to tell you this. Watch this intro, and I want you to remember the show Band of Brothers.
What's our mission, soldier?
We are given few chances in a lifetime. To be bold. To have the courage and rise in the face of danger.
See, there's using a Lee Enfield, so maybe sniper?
To find unity among others. My chance will not be wasted.
And obviously a beautiful panoramic shot there of the Mercury map. So I feel like that's just something character-wise people of this game wanted. They wanted actual British soldiers. They wanted actual British cosmetics. They want more realistic style of uniforms and soldier skins, just simply because we've been berated with just these over-the-top, just insane looking characters. I mean, all you have to do is just look at the German elites that are in the game, and it really just sort of drives home the fact that it just doesn't feel like that this isn't a World War II game. This is sort of just like a hodgepodge of many different eras thrown together to make them look cool rather than historically accurate. Now, I know this game itself necessarily isn't historically accurate, but, you know, at least attempt to make us feel like it is. Anyway, moving on to the weapons for like tanks and planes. I actually feel like the British have better planes and tanks than the Germans. I know I'm probably wrong on this, but I feel like the Archer is just the best tank destroyer in the game. Valentine, best medium tank in the game. And the Churchill's not great, but it's I mean, I just play my Churchill to be like a baby Sturmtiger, but that's about it for me. And really, the only British plane I ever fly is the Blenheim, which just has the Free French skin on there and the Pelican Pete. I don't know. I got these skins, or I got the nose art in like a Tides of War thing, and I think I bought like, yeah, the cheapest one for there, just so I can have a different skin while flying my favorite plane in the game. So, kind of quick one this time around. I wanted to try to shorten down the video as best I could. Really, if there's something I want people to take away from this, is that we really, as a community, want better soldier skins that aren't just completely ridiculous. Like, you know, even if you take the Desert Rat helmet that's on there, or it's not a helmet, it's goggles, but, you know, that's not terrible. Like, that's not a terrible look. Like, why can't we have more stuff like that that's based off of things that are historically accurate? You know? But instead, we keep getting skins that just look absolutely ridiculous with, you know, you get stuff like, you know, this Union Jack soldier here, which looks ridiculous. You get apparently a lot of American skins with, like, I know the Scottish Play and Robert the Bruce have that, you know, that's that jacket he's wearing is American. You know, so it's just you know, there's the American star on a British soldier. You know, why do we have, you know, Wild Eagle and Yankee skins when the Americans aren't even in the game yet? So, you know, just give your British soldiers some actual decent British themed skins and cosmetics. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.